Kula Vinaka, everybody. It's Dave at Vinaka Urban Farm. We are 2/3 of the way through September, so it's a good time to do another farm tour update. It's been about a month since the last one, and there have been some changes on the farm. It really feels like the beginning of autumn here in central Ohio. It's about, I'd say, upper 50s right now, and in Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what that is in Celsius. Look it up. But little brisk breeze on. I got my little work hoodie, high school graduation class hoodie on, and it feels really nice for a child of the Midwest. But without further ado, let's get into the farm tour video. I figured I would start, for the sake of variety, with the front yard this time. Plant paradise. So you can see that sunflowers are still blooming. Actually, there's tons of blooms, and something I learned about sunflowers is that you can prune them and they'll get more blooms on them. So you can see these sunflowers used to be, I don't know, 10, 12 feet tall. They're now about 6 feet tall at this side of the yard. Still got some tall ones in the middle there. But just wherever there were dead, empty sunflower heads with no petals on them, I pruned them, and it encouraged the plant to direct its energies toward these lower down buds. So it's still beautiful. In fact, I kind of like it now that it's got all these extra buds. But that's on the east side of the yard. Sitting underneath the sunflowers. It's tough to see in this light, but I got some lovely looking fall kale plants. These guys are about 45 days old by now. They get a lot of shade right here, but it seems like once the sun hits the other side of the sunflowers, they get enough. Got some dahlias threatening to bloom. We hope they get some blooms here, some more blooms by the time the frost rolls around, because that'll kill the dahlias. But we do have one giant dahlia bloom hanging out right here. Check out that guy. And this beautiful white one with some purple in the middle. These little stakes are where we have planted a bunch of, some people call them naked ladies, some people call them surprise lilies. They're a really cool, unique little kind of lily for next year. We've got big plans for this front yard next year. It's actually going to be almost entirely flowers, although we always integrate fruits and vegetables into our stuff too. But that's because I actually have got another couple of plots that I'm going to be farming next year. I've got 2 yards that are bigger than mine, people that live around Columbus, that I'm going to farm, and I'm going to do this full time next year. So I'll keep you posted with those kind of developments. It's really kind of a dream come true. So that's my next year plans. But for this year, let's continue the farm tour. Some more varieties of kale are hanging out here. I think kale's such a beautiful, look at this guy. It's such a beautiful plant. It's deep, gorgeous purple. Kale's definitely going to stay in the front yard next year because it's so pretty. It goes with so many flowers. Some blooming basil going along here. The nigella that bloomed so early this year still got a lot of seed pods up there. I think I'm going to collect those seeds and replant them next year. Got a few stray asters and a lot of echinacea coming up in this corner of the garden. This corner of the garden is really a showstopper right now. It's got these gorgeous tall dahlias that have been blooming for a good solid month at least now. Also have learned about pruning dahlias and deadheading them. More echinacea over here. Got this really cool variety of echinacea called green twister over here. The outer edges are green and the inner part is purple. That's really cool. Our autumn olive has become a monstrosity. It's huge. I think I'm actually going to get rid of it just due to new plans for this part of the yard, and having learned a lot from my experiences growing this kind of stuff. It's just kind of too big for this yard. I love these asters, just can't get enough of them. They're a great late summer plant and they last forever in a vase. We've used them as cut flowers a lot this year. This basil over here is starting to bloom. The coleus is blooming. Got a little bumblebee hanging out as always on the coleus. Always encouraging to see. Plum tree looks good. Got our little, we can actually walk through in between the sunflowers now through this path, which is nice. And now that I prune the sunflowers, sunshine hits these blanket flowers, and there's lots of blooms down here too. Another great dahlia. It's really started to shine now that I've started cutting off the dead dahlia heads. Is this gorgeous like yellow and white one. It's just, I love the way when the sun hits it from behind, it's like luminescent. It's really beautiful. Let's head through the path, take advantage of the traversability of the path now, and go into the garden proper. Even though nighttime temperatures have been hitting the high 30s, the peppers are still going strong here. We still get up into the 60s and 70s on most days with lots of sunlight in the fall. In the middle of this garden bed is a ton of lettuce. I'm still planting lettuce and will continue to do so, and that half of the bed is kale. What's missing from this bed are the 3 Roma plants. The Romas were done, so I got a last harvest of them and just yoinked the plants. And that makes way for a lot of sunlight in this back half of the bed. So it's really nice to be able to kind of do plant successions like that. Exciting developments in the fall here. This little guy and its neighbors are spinach. So it's our first spinach crop that's been transplanted into various parts of this bed. I harvested some lettuce off of it, and these other red ones and some other shaped ones are also lettuce. We've also got some more spinach over here. Some slow crawling beets over here. I hope that these get mature by the time that, in time to get a harvest this fall, but if not, I'll have learned when to plant and when not to plant them. Naked stems of our tomatoes. The tomatoes are really starting to struggle. It's just about the end of tomato season here. They often get late blight and their leaves start to curl up. Here, I'll show you an example. See how much dead brown is on this tomato plant. It's just what happens here when the temperatures get cold and you get a rain or something, they get wet. Crawling up these trellises that formerly had squash on them are now some sugar snaps, and they're doing well. Check out this little sugar snap guy. They're almost mature enough to pick. I'd say another week. And it seems like planting the 1st of August worked really well for the sugar snaps over here on this side, but the golden snow peas are not as happy. The plants just don't look as healthy. There's a few on here, but they're really scraggly and small, so I think I'll wait another couple weeks and maybe do mid-August for snow peas and beginning of August for the sugar snaps. Next year, we'll try that out. This corner of the yard is really shady, and I've just this year started to learn to plant shade tolerant and shade growing, shade loving plants. But a few of them are really thriving, so I'll show those to you. We finally got around to weeding this bed, so it looks good now. Japanese ferns are happy as Larry over here. Caladiums are super happy. Gonna have to dig those bulbs up at some point. This is a Lenten rose or Helleborus. This is another Lenten rose or Helleborus, both very happy. And this plant's Buglos, it's called. Very happy. It's got some of this black stuff on its leaves. I'll probably just snip those leaves off at some point soon. And we got some good plans for this. I'm a vegetable guy, so I'm used to everything loving full sun, but I'm expanding my ideas and trying to make use of this shady spot. And we're also going to, these all are peonies. You can't see, they're not flowering right now because they flower in early summer. But peonies don't actually like this amount of shade, so I'm gonna dig those bulbs up and move them. And that means that those guys, from my understanding, once you move the bulbs, they won't bloom for a couple more years after that because they don't really like being messed with that much. But in the end, once they get established in a more full sun location, we should get a lot more blooms out of them. And I'll probably move them to one of the many flower beds that are going to be in this front yard, because like I said, we've got big plans to make this front yard into kind of a more flower centric place, and we're actually going to have different themes for the many individual beds. You can see, for example, this bed is surrounded by path over here. This bed is going to be one theme, and then that bed in the center is going to be another theme of a garden, and so forth. So I'll keep you posted as those go on. Really excited about that movement, but or that development. But for now, we'll continue the garden tour video, and I'll take you to the backyard next. Catch you there.